When finding the median of a data set, you might be used to doing something like this, crossing out the smallest, crossing out the biggest, smallest, biggest, smallest, biggest, until you get to a middle number. And with small data sets, this is probably fine. But once you get a bigger data set, or especially a data set represented by a table, it becomes much less viable. And the danger in a question like this is if you try to find the median, in this case, the median number of employees, you might have tried to do something similar to this. You might have crossed out, crossed out, crossed out, crossed out, and thought that this was in the middle, and accordingly picked choice C. But this doesn't work all the time because we have to account for the frequency. We have to account for the number of restaurants with these numbers of employees. If I wanted to write this out, let's kind of just to make this simple, let's just ignore these numbers for a minute. Let's just use the 2, the 8, and the 14 as stand-ins. If I wanted to write out this list, I'd have to write 2 2s, and then I'd have to write 4 8s, and then I'd have to write 2 14s, and so on. And once I write out that list, then I could do, the cross-out method, and I would get an answer. But notice where we kind of land in the middle depends on these frequencies. Now, of course, writing all this out is not the greatest thing in the world. Theoretically, you could do it, but all we have to do is add some zeros to these, and it becomes way less viable to write this all out. So what is the way to get this directly without having to do this cross-out method, no matter how big the data set is? Here's what I like to do. First, let's find the total number of points in our data set, in this case, the total number of restaurants. And we could add these all up, but they also just tell us that there's 17. So 17 restaurants. Divide the total by 2. In this case, we get 8.5 since we're dividing an odd number by 2. So we're going to round up that result. And this tells us which number in my set, if my set is ordered from least to greatest, which number will be the median, either counting from least to greatest or greatest to least. It's always going to be in the middle, right? It's the middle number. So this 9th number is going to be in the middle, and that's my median. And so I can now just look at my table, either start counting from the top or the bottom, it doesn't matter, and see where do I find my 9th data point. So the first 2 data points are here. The next 4 are here. And so I'm going to keep track cumulatively on the right here how many we've counted so far. So 2 plus 4 is 6. So my first 6 data points are in this group right here. The next 2 are here, so that takes me to 8. And then the next 7 are here, which takes me to 15. But importantly, somewhere in here, somewhere in this set is my 9th. Somewhere in here is that 9th data point. And again, if I counted from the bottom, it's the same thing, right? Here's 2. And then if I add 7 to 2, I get 9. So yes, somewhere in here is the 9th data point. So we don't know exactly what these values are, right? It can range anywhere from 20 to 25. So we know the 9th is somewhere between 20 and 25, and that's how we get choice D. So remember, don't just look at the table and do the quick cross out. In fact, generally speaking, I avoid the cross out unless it's a very simple data set where you can just boom, 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 cross out. Any kind of table or any other display of the data, I would use this, right? Find that middle number and then count from the top or the bottom and see where that value lies. In this case, it's around 21. So 19 is D.